Hello and welcome to Smiling Souls. Today we are super happy to welcome a good friend, another friend from our networking group, Tamira Hamilton. I'm going to hand it over to Wendy and just let her give us an introduction of who Tamira is. And I think today's going to be a fun conversation just about life and all the things, the ups, the downs, and the ways we can navigate it, right?
Girl, life, all the things, and here we go. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce Tamira Hamilton. Tamira is a seasoned sales and marketing professional, Pinterest expert, and the visionary creator behind Pin Profits Mastery. With a remarkable career spanning over 3 decades within Fortune 100 companies, Tamira's expertise is unmatched. Her journey from a single mother to an entrepreneurial powerhouse has driven her to help others liberate their potential. Today, Tamira will share her insights on the latest marketing trends, drawing from her extensive experience and expertise in content strategy and social media. So welcome, Tamira Hamilton.
I'm so happy to be here, and both of you just make me smile just
Oh,
being here in your presence. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
of
you, of
course.
course.
And you make us smile. You make us smile. And you just actually dropped some knowledge on us before we even got started. You're like, checklists. And Steph and I just both went, oh, yeah. Steph wrote it down. I'm like, cool. We're already getting so much from you, Tamira. But to kick us off and get to know you, let's see just a little bit about you. Your biggest inspiration on your journey. Actually, that's not the question I want to ask. I want to ask, tell us more about you. Tell us about your career and your evolution and what you're doing now and what you're passionate about and all the things.
Girl, I will be here all day.
That's okay.
Okay. I mean, when you talk about a three decade long career,
Right.
like you see and you hear and you experience some things, okay? So
Right.
one thing I will say is I'm a student of life. I am an observer. I am a lifetime learner. And I proudly attribute that to my family. I would learn that from my family. My grandparents, they were high school graduates. They weren't college graduates, but they were very educated, right? Because they always were reading books. In fact, I used to, at my first job out of college, because they babysat my kids for me, I would pick up my kids and grab a book from their library. So, in an undergrad, I helped them type up papers for a program at church that they were going through that had an actual graduation ceremony and everything. So they were very much lifetime learners, and so are my parents. And even on my dad's side of the family, his mom, that she was a reader. So I've always been a lifetime learner, and I think that has definitely given me an edge because I don't see a lot of people really paying attention to what's going on around them, right? Like I can go to Cirque du Soleil and I can see so much of what's happening, and I see a different show than the person
Right.
sitting next to me because they actually see what the illusion wants you to see, where I can see how they made the
Mhm.
illusion
Mhm.
happen. And sometimes it's a gift and a curse, let me tell you, okay? Because in corporate America, I was not easy to fool, okay?
Mhm.
So I graduated high school in 2 weeks post high school. And just to back it up a little bit, I actually took a marketing class and some business classes
Right.
in high school. I think beginning like junior year, I'd always been on the college prep track. So I had more than enough credits, and I only took study hall when I was pregnant with my daughter so I could sleep because I thought
Mhm.
study hall was a waste of credits because that's how crazy insane I was. So 2 weeks post high school, I get a call that I have been selected to apply to a program to work for a major company
Oh,
here in town. They make products that you probably know and have had in your household. at some time. And so I apply and I kill the interview
Of course.
and get the call. And 2 weeks later, I'm working on a major national brand, 2 weeks out of high school before I've ever taken a collegiate college course. And so the next year, I worked over on their business to business side,
Mhm.
and they asked me, because of the project I was working on, they gave me like 15 hours throughout the school year. So that was really incredible because I could hear a concept in class and then I could go to work and see it at play. And, just seeing a lot of different things. Like, I'll never forget the time someone made a joke about someone's hair migrating from their face to their beard, and the look on my face, and they all thought it was hilarious because my perception was business is just all so serious. And here they were making fun of each other. So it was an incredible experience. And it kind of spoiled me because number one, my internship was paid. So I've never worked for free and I never will. Number two, like I said, it gave me this vantage point of really being able to apply things
Right.
in the real world. And because I got paid at the rate of like if I had a master's degree, it really spoiled me. So my first job out of college, I hated for like the first year. But I
Mm.
kept it because I needed benefits and I had a child. And then I also found myself pregnant with my second one. So it wasn't going to be like, oh, I could just go out and apply
Mhm.
for another job. So I had to make it work. And then I eventually began to like it. So, my career spans, like I said, 3 different decades, all sizes of companies. I've worked for all kinds of industries. I've worked for business to business, consumer, business to consumer, a lot of business to business in the beginning. And I can say I've learned a lot. I've worked with some of the biggest names out there, Disney, Universal Studios, the theme parks. I've worked with Busch Gardens, SeaWorld, United Airlines, back then Continental Airlines, all
Mhm.
Midwest Express Airlines, all these different brands that I've been exposed to, Sheraton
Mhm.
hotels, so many different hotels, Holiday and Intercontinental, and seen so many different acquisitions and mergers and different types of customer experiences. It really gives me a one of a kind point of view. And so, my last 7 to 11, I get confused time once you get past 2 decades, things start to blur. So my
Right.
last 7 to 11 years I spent in financial services, and that is an entirely different beast. Okay,
I bet.
because you're working with the public about their money, and let me tell you, that is quite interesting. And the thing, you learn a lot about consumer psychology and behavior working in finance and money. I mean, you learn it overall in marketing, period, because that's all marketing is. But when you throw their money into the mix, it's quite interesting what you see and you experience. And so I think the overall, the company that I worked for last, which was like 7 years, it was a great company. However, they went through this period where they had some really bad middle and upper middle management, and the environment just got extremely toxic to the point that, like, on Sunday, I would begin to cry around 6 o'clock because I had to go to work on Monday. And then that moved to 4, and then that moved to noon, and then it moved to 10 a.m.
Mhm.
And so and in that time period of being a manager, I was the highest paid manager in the market at one point because I ran a well-oiled machine, but I also promoted 18 people in 3 years, but yet I watched other people at my level get promoted. And it was just so weird how that happened, but
Mhm.
it was always, I needed to prove that I could do it again. I needed to
Mhm.
prove that I
Hmm.
could do it again. And I was, we always hear about, I'd like to think I was one of the first people to say overworked and underpaid. Well, I also added to that, overlooked for
Mhm.
promotion, right? I also was constantly, chronically understaffed because they knew they could eke every little bit out of me. So when you talk about burnout, like, I've had to argue with my family and explain to them I had to walk away or I might be dead. I might have
Mm-hmm.
never seen my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I might have never, lived to know my grandchildren or be here for my children and have to really break it down and explain to them what I was going through. Like this just wasn't about it's so funny. Everyone will have an opinion about what you should do with your education that you paid for yourself.
Right.
It's
Mm-hmm.
the weirdest thing. So everybody's healing now, everybody's getting along now, so it's a lot better. But yeah, so that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. I came to the digital marketing space in
Mm-hmm.
2013 with clearly, I mean, hello, a solid marketing foundation, a solid sales foundation, a solid people and leadership foundation. And so I translated a lot of that to digital, but there were still some things that I needed to journey out and learn about digital marketing. And I did. And it all started with a podcast called the Solopreneur Hour with Michael O'Neill. And it took me down this rabbit hole, and like the first 50 episodes were absolutely the best. Like I still listen to some of them, I have them archived, right? And so that's how I got to become mentored by Dawn Mars. And she was Dawn Mars Ortiz at the time, right? And so we developed a really good friendship. And then that led to Tracy Reuter, and they started the Social Media Marketing Happy Hour. And that was the first podcast. I think it was either the first or the second podcast I ever was featured on. So it's been a fun, interesting ride. It's led to a lot of different opportunities. And that is really where it all culminates in Pen Profits Mastery with Module 5, Become a Monetized Magnet, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get out here and you market yourself and you show up consistently, you have your brand voice, you have your brand messaging, the opportunities are going to find you, right? Like, not to toot my own horn, but you guys came to me and said, "Hey, we're starting a podcast," and it wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't have you on it. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hell, my girls, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
I am there." So I have this phrase that I live by, and it's get ready, be ready, and stay ready. And I actually got it from one of the most toxic managers. So you can always take things from bad people and toxic people. And so, I believe in, you say yes, even if you don't know how you're going to make it happen or when it's going to happen, but you're going to grow into it. I believe that. I think it comes from the Bible. Your gift will make room for you. And I am an example of that. So that's it in a nutshell. You asked. I like
Gosh.
tacos. I love my family. I love my grandbabies. I love the outdoors. I love sunshine. I love to travel. And I love, absolutely live for mafia movies and like Roman Greco timepiece movies. So I am so beyond excited for Gladiator 2 with Denzel to be coming out this November.
Yes, that
I
looks so
cannot
cool.
wait.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot wait. So
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a big nutshell that you just
I
opened
told
up.
you, I warned you.
I know, and it's gorgeous. I love how your grandparents were such a big influence on you and lifelong learners and your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And that just seems to like learning seems like very key to you. That's part of your core. That's who you are. Learning,
Absolutely.
figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I remember I first heard about, when I was interning, the book Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Mhm.
And I hit a snag in my career at my first real job. And I found myself listening to that. And the first thing that really caught my attention and made me continue listening to that book was that when they said to seek understanding, then be understood. And that is just like, that is a core tenet of who I am.
Right.
People who don't do that annoy, can I cuss?
Mm-hmm.
Annoy the
Absolutely.
fuck out of me. People who
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
they annoy the fuck out of me. I cannot stand that shit. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely despise that shit. Like, you just want to be understood. You don't want to understand. And you need to be able to understand first. And then you also
100%.
will deal with people who you're trying to understand and they're getting annoyed because they just want to be understood. And it's like, motherfucker, I'm trying to understand here.
Mhm. I love you.
I 100% hear you. And I was one of those people that I thought, okay, I know this.
Mhm.
I'm going to just put my message out there. Here's the problem. Yeah, it was my message. It was not my
Mhm.
client's message. I wasn't listening. I wasn't hearing them. I wasn't understanding because I thought I knew better. Oh shit.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. And it's something I've even prided myself on as a parent, right? Because I'm going to tell you, the 40s, the early 40s, once I was an
Mhm.
empty nester, were racked with so much guilt
Mhm.
about,
Mm.
about being a single mom, and did I do a good job? Did I spend the time, and I had to release myself of that guilt. But that's another podcast episode. That's a whole train wreck in
I'd
and of
like
itself.
to touch on that. Like, no, seriously, because a lot of
Yeah.
our people, including myself, I'm
Okay, we can
wondering,
go there. We can
how
go
did
there.
you release yourself of that guilt?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can go there. So before we go there, because I will be all over the place. So that was one of the things that helped me actually release myself, was the fact that both of my children at different times have expressed through, either a job or a teacher, they've expressed like, hey, that's how I was raised. Like I have a voice.
Mhm.
My mom's still going to make her decision, but she will at least listen to me. In fact, the um my youngest, my kids are, I have two um only children because they're 5.5 years apart. So
Oh,
they,
gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, so they act more like siblings now, but back then it was like they both acted like they were my only child. It was the craziest thing. And so she said to her third grade teacher, hey, I don't know who you think you are, but my mom has 2 master's degrees and she listens to me. So,
I love
That
that.
is awesome.
Yes. Stand up. You're teaching your children to stand up for themselves and
yeah.
speak their voice at
Mhm.
a young age. And I
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I grew up, my mom ruled with an iron fist, right? And
Mm.
so while we did have a voice, it just wasn't as open, right? There were
Mhm.
just some impediments, some blockages
Sure.
Mhm.
there. And so with my kids, I'll tell you. So like I think one of the things that hurt my mom most in my life that I've done
Mm.
was I was probably 4.5, 5 months pregnant before she knew. And I
Mhm.
think that really impacted her, but it also was kind of her own fault too. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The communication and the messages made me deathly afraid to
Mhm.
tell her or to be able to go to her and seek help. And it might have been more like 3.5 to,
Mm.
it was pretty far along, right? Like
Mhm.
if there was going to be a decision made, it needed to be made pretty
Yep.
quickly. So whatever that
Mhm.
time period is, like 22 weeks or
Yeah.
Mhm.
something like that. And so I didn't want, and I told my kids that story. And it's like I always wanted to have open communication. And always having Espen, like we talked about on Mastermind yesterday, Wendy, my whole thing was you were never going to be sitting on Oprah and saying, what a horrible mom I was and how I didn't give you a voice, right?
Mm.
So, so yeah. So how I came out of that
Right.
was I literally just had to have a conversation with myself. It really happened when my oldest daughter, who is now is 32 and a half, as she was approaching 28, and it really hit me like, damn, you got a whole ass adult child who has,
No.
you know, a child, and I think maybe at that time even another child on the way. Like she's a
Mhm.
whole ass adult, because I used to be so worried about getting in front of things and helping her see things and that. And it was like, it's okay. You can
Mhm.
move the fuck out of the way now. You did your job. I mean,
Right.
and look at her. Look at the mother she is. Look at, your grandson, and look at,
Mhm.
the
Right.
jobs that they have and the voices and how they
Mm.
exercise their voice. You might not have been perfect and you
Mhm.
made mistakes, but I think one of the things I said to myself, Wendy and Stephanie, is unfortunately, when you turn 18 one Tuesday and have a baby the next, like I did,
Yep.
in your
Oh,
20s, you're growing up with your child. Your child is seeing
right.
you
Yeah.
grow
Mhm.
up, right? And there were definitely mistakes that my parents made that I said I never wanted to make. And then I found myself making those mistakes. And I think those are some of the things that I beat myself up
Mhm.
about, right?
Yeah.
And so, I also just gave myself grace and mercy because I know had I had Instagram back then, it would have
Yeah.
been completely different, right?
Really?
Because, oh yeah, oh yeah,
Awesome.
because there's so much self-help and quotes, and
Mm-hmm.
there are therapists on
Yeah.
social media that
Mm.
are giving you, tools and
Oh,
resources. And I used to read a lot of different books, but they just didn't go there, right? Like there's this whole opening of a new era that has started since then that
right.
is, social media is playing a huge part in that, which is why they want to ban TikTok.
Yeah.
That's so interesting and kind of off topic, but kind of not. It was on some social media post that the trend now is let's see, Gen X women that have teenagers, youngish adults, their youngish kids or early adults, however you want to say it, are like looking through their mom's 17 magazines and teen magazines and just like, oh my gosh, because that was how we got information,
Yes.
right? We
Mm-hmm.
didn't have social media.
Right.
We had the library, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We didn't have that. And that's how we knew the trends. That's how we knew,
And
like,
that was
okay,
after the fact, right? They're getting everything
Mm-hmm.
in real time. We
Yeah.
were getting
exactly,
things after the fact.
Yeah.
way after that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I just had to pick up on
Interesting.
that. Okay. So you released yourself from the guilt by saying, you know what? I got a 28-year-old daughter. She's on her own. Look at her.
Yeah.
Look at what she's doing.
Yeah.
And grandchildren.
I did my job. I did my job. I did the best that I could
You
with
did.
what I had.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God. And
And
I
we all
believe,
are. And I had to forgive my
yeah,
parents at the same time. That had to
Mm-hmm.
be a huge part of it because I had to understand that they too, I was literally watching them grow up, that
Mm-hmm.
oh
they,
wow.
because they had me young, so they
Mm-hmm.
made their mistakes and they had their own traumas as
Okay.
well that they needed to heal from and or were healing from, as did my grandparents. That each generation, you can do your damnedest to try to not inflict trauma upon your child, but it's like they say at a funeral, the days of man are but short and full of trouble, right? There are going to be ups and there are going to be downs. No one is going to get through this thing called life without some sort of trauma.
Yeah.
Even just the bee
Yeah.
stings, right? The
Yeah.
stepping on a nest of yellow jackets.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing anyone can do to prepare or prevent that from
Mm-hmm.
happening.
Exactly.
100%. And I don't have kids, so I don't have anybody to give trauma to, but do you feel like every generation up levels? Here's what I mean by that. My
Mm-hmm.
grandmother was at one level. Then here comes my mother. She's at another level. Here comes me. I'm at another level. Right now, after me comes no one. But over the generations, it seems to me as I'm taking a step back, we learn to deal with trauma. Come on, Zoom. We learn to Zoom. Just give me a thumbs up. I don't know. Thank you very much. We lean into the things like social media, like information that helps us to up level. That's the way I am viewing things and life. What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's so hard to go there because of
Yeah.
everything going on politically and
Well, well,
and
right.
that in this world. I think that yes, that is true to a degree, but I
Mm,
also see that where there is a segment that is just giving up
Mm-hmm.
and throwing in the towel and ready to go back to what we fought so hard
Yep.
to come from.
yeah.
Uh, you
I,
know, I think the American dream is supposed to be that, but I think
mhm,
we're finding that what we've been taught to believe is the American dream was
mhm,
really only supposed to be reserved for a certain few.
Certain people.
Hmm.
We got to create our own American dreams,
And I think we
whatever that
have,
means.
but I
And
don't think we're the problem. I think it's the people who benefited from us not being able to achieve our version. of the American dream and wanting to
Mhm.
hold everything for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. And I'm gonna say it, they're quote unquote kind.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind. Oh, they're kind. Got
Yeah.
it. Not they're
Yeah.
kind. Like they are
No.
Yeah.
not fucking kind. They're
No,
horrible.
not They
Mm-hmm.
apostrophe Re, Their.
Yeah, got it. Grammar. It's a thing with me.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I also have been really listening to the change makers, those that are in tune with the spiritual side of the universe. And what I'm hearing is everything is going to be breaking down
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
females are going to be owning their power
It's
again.
everywhere. Even my dad said it last week. And to go back to your question, I also see where, and this might ruffle some feathers. That's a great hook for social media, by the way, but I'm going to say it anyway.
That's
I
okay.
also see where we've come so far that, it's like there's this social media image that goes out and talks about a man who's had to build things for himself
Mm.
and how it strengthens him versus a man who was given everything, how it
Mm-hmm.
weakens him. And I can see some of that in our children and the over mothering, the
Yep.
helicopter parenting,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and that has weakened, right? And I'm trying my hardest to stay away from, but it's so hard with everything that's going on politically. But I'll just say that I think that there's been, and that's not even along party lines.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
That's just
really
in
Mhm.
general.
Across
just
the
in
board.
general,
Yeah.
that there has been a lot of coddling. There has been a lot of safeguarding. And you,
Mhm.
like I said, there are just some things you can't protect your children from. As a grandparent who loves her Black grandson
Mm-hmm.
so, so much, this is a conversation I have to have with myself all the
Mhm.
time. We can do our best to prepare him, but there are some things we are just not going to be able to protect him from. And same with my
Mm-hmm.
Black granddaughter, the way the world views us and treats us, like a lot of what I dealt with in corporate America and being overworked to the extent that I was because I was not gifted the privilege of being seen as fragile and softer. I was seen as a workhorse
Mm-hmm.
because of the color and complexity of my skin,
Mm-hmm.
right? Will anyone ever admit that? Probably not. And I don't need them to because I know.
Mm-hmm.
You know that's the truth, right?
Yeah, I
Yep,
know that's the truth. Yeah. You know? So,
absolutely. And to go back to, I totally agree with what you said that the coddling and the safeguards that are put in for
Mm-hmm.
kids, I'm seeing it too. And as Gen X women, all of us are Gen X women.
mhm.
When you were growing up, I don't know if you got this. I did. You know, you fall down, you skin your knee. What did I get? Mom, I hurt myself. Blow on it.
Yeah.
Walk it off.
Right.
Right? But that's how, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
that's how I was raised. And it's like it was the mantra of, okay, she does that, she's going to hurt herself or she's going to figure out the negative consequences.
Mhm.
That's how you learn,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
right? And
Right.
and to that point, like the kids are not learning the lessons because the parents are.
Yeah, and I think I always try to be careful not to diagnose people because there's way too much of that going on and people diagnosing people who don't have the licenses and certifications to be diagnosing people. But I think there's a lot of that over mothering is rooted in a need for therapy, a
Mm-hmm.
need for, releasing of some things
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and dealing with anxiety and
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
their own childhood traumas in general, because I mean I think we all go into parenting knowing that there are some things we are just going to do differently
Yeah.
Right.
than
Yeah.
our parents did. And I think that in some cases we need to really examine why they did the things that they did
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
before we
I
just
think
rule them
it's
out.
I always think it's interesting when people just across the board like have an issue with their parent and can't look at them as human beings who,
Yes.
like we've been saying, like they were just doing their best. They're living their life the best way
Right.
they know how. Um,
Yeah.
and at the same time, it's very interesting that you also, what you just said about the helicopter parent type thing. My brother's first wife and him, when they had their kids, it was like they didn't want to say no to the child. They didn't want to like give him those negative inputs at all. And therefore, like,
Hmm.
he definitely struggled on so many levels. And there was some things, there was, you know, probably some therapy things that need to be dealt with, and but the funniest thing is when my husband and I had a child, it was like, all right, we're going to do the exact opposite of that. Like that was
Right.
our method. Like that was the only rule in the book was exact opposite. Like, um, but yeah, like I think going back to the concept of like, are we leveling up? I think there are some people within each generation that are, and are conscious of bettering themselves. I think there's a lot more conversation around that than there used to be. Like, if we think back to when we were kids, I think our parents, like, it was one thing to better yourself for work, but did they necessarily better themselves personally? You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
Right. And that's where you were
other
definitely
than
leading me
say
to.
going to church or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. The healing. And that's what they say about Gen Z or Gen Alpha. I think Gen
Mhm.
Alpha, that they came into this world with no karma attached, right?
Yeah.
And
Okay. Who's Gen Alpha?
that's like my
The
grandson.
youngest.
Yeah, the youngest. Yeah. That they came in with no karma attached. And Gen Z has done a lot of therapy. They've done a lot of the healing work, but I think they still have some other things they got to deal with.
They're
Um,
creating new stuff because they're so attached to their computers and their phones and they
yes.
can't socialize
Yes.
and, you
Yep.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Not
you
saying that
know,
with judgment.
I would definitely say the concept of bettering up each generation is really subjective, right?
Yeah,
Because for some people, they're going to look at job status,
Mhm.
marital status, they're going to look at what car you drive, how much
exactly.
money you have in the bank. And for me, while I do like those things,
Yeah.
I do, it's much more about who am I? Am I at peace?
Hmm.
Am I finding joy?
Yeah.
Am I happy?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Hmm.
And I don't think
Yeah.
those questions were asked during our parents' generation, our grandparents'
No.
Hmm.
generation. It was go, go, go. You don't show emotion. You don't say there's anything wrong. Right. And thank God we're in this place where, yeah, we have the freedom to some extent because, judgment abounds everywhere, but
Right.
I have that freedom. Hopefully everybody here does, listening, watching, and Stephanie and Tamira. If I'm feeling a certain way, I'm going to say it. I'm not going to
Hmm.
pretend. I'm not going to, because that does no one any good.
Right.
I
Right.
forget where I was going with that. You're
Well,
welcome.
it's okay. I mean, I think there are times you have to have difficult conversations with people.
Hmm.
And I come from, the parenting style I grew up under made it very difficult for me to be able to approach difficult
Yeah, you
Yeah.
said iron fist with your mom.
Yeah.
conversations. Yeah, because I really only learned fight or flight, right?
Hmm.
Like either go
Mhm.
in to annihilate or
Hmm.
just
Mhm.
avoid it altogether.
Hmm.
And so it's having to learn how to be assertive and say what you need to say. And at the end of the day, I'm okay and you're okay, right? Like
Hmm.
I don't have to hate you. I don't have to annihilate you or destroy
Hmm.
you or belittle you, but I can
Mhm.
say what it is that I need to say. Like I just had to have a conversation with someone around, okay, well, if this person is doing this and you know that it impacts me in this way and they're bringing it to you, why are you not addressing it with them?
Ooh, great conversation. And
Yeah.
how did you get from fight and flight to this point where you're having those conversations?
Lifetime readers and learner. There's a great book called Crucial Conflicts and Crucial Conversations. It's actually 2 books.
Ooh.
Those are really great. And then just a lot of self-work and inner healing. I always say I'm the person who analyzes the fight after the fact, right? So like with employees, like I was always really good with employees, but every once in a while someone would say something that would
Mhm.
just like kind of stump me, but they wouldn't know it. I was very good at
Mhm.
making sure they didn't know it. But then after the fact, I would think about it and like, well, I should have said this or I could have said that. So I would make
Mhm.
Right.
note of it and it goes into my little catalog. So the next time something like that comes up, I'm equipped and I know what to say. And so
Right.
what I do now is I really separate the person from the behavior. And I also will also look at their own trauma. When you get to know people and you get to know their families, for example, you get to know their trauma.
Mhm.
Even though they may not ever tell you, you get to figure out, especially someone like me.
Mhm.
We kind of talked about that yesterday in Mastermind.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
we
you
did.
can see, I can see things, I can feel things, and
Mhm.
I know things. And so I can figure out their trauma and why they may be doing what it is that they're doing. And so I just begin to ask questions. I'm not accusing, I'm
No,
just
you're
asking,
serious. Right.
Mhm.
you know, if you're my friend, if you're their friend, if it were, because if it were me, that's honestly what I would do. I would say, well, you know that that belongs to so and so, or so and so was doing that. Why are you centering yourself in that? Why are you placing yourself
Mhm.
in that? Right?
That's
You
a
know?
beautiful question.
Yeah. And so I just have to chalk it up to maybe they just don't know how to have that conversation. That's all that I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and say maybe they don't know how to
Right.
do it. So, but I'm just going to question it and put you on alert.
Yeah. Say something. Well, it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
what you taught your kids, speak up,
Yeah.
say it.
It's
Do
not,
not
my mom
be.
did always say that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But
Mhm.
yeah. You
That is true.
Wow. Um, my heart is
make me
full.
feel like such a fascinating person and I'm so boring.
But you are a fascinating
You're not
person,
boring.
Tamira. You're a fascinating woman. And I want to kind of shift gears here a little bit. And I want to talk about all of the things that you are offering because it's a lot. You're a genius.
Oh
I
my
was
God,
thinking
thank
about
you.
no, I was thinking about this before our this podcast today, and I was thinking about you, and I was like, you know what? The term and the phrase and the definition genius is powerful, and there's a lot to it. And I don't say this very lightly. I say it with a lot of love and respect, but you're a genius.
Wow, thank you.
I mean, everything that you've created, everything that I've learned from you, which is just about this much. I know there's a lot more that I still would need to and would like to learn from you, but I want to shift this and I want to turn this over to you, Tamira, and talk about the secret to winning at Pinterest when you are short on time. This
Yeah, that
gorgeous.
was a master class that I did for free for the diamond chapter. And because I'm, like you said, my zone of genius is what I will say is
Mhm.
not walking the same step twice if I can help it. So I turned it into a freebie, right? And I used
Mhm.
AI, I used ChatGPT
Yep.
to help me do that. ChatGPT to help me create the worksheet, to outline and decide what was on the worksheet. And then I used Canva. So, just a side note, I'm going to say this because I got to say it and I got to scream it from the mountaintops.
Okay.
There has never been a time in human history that you could literally start from zero, be anyone with no education, no experience,
Mhm.
and utilize technology to better your situation. There
Mhm.
has never been a time where you can take the little super powered computer that we all have in the palm of our hand. Look at my babies in the
You're
palms of our hands, and use free social media apps. Use Google Docs, right? If you look at the sales letter for Pin Profits Mastery, that is a Google Doc that I published to the web.
Mhm.
mm,
It's a literally a letter that I wrote, and I published it as a Google Doc to the
right.
web with my Stripe link embedded for payment, right?
Mhm.
We think we have to have so much when it really takes so little. Most of the work has already been done by way of your walk, by way of your experience, by
Mhm.
way of what you've learned, and that is your gift to the world.
Mhm.
You walked those particular steps for a reason, and that is your journey. That is what you are to bring and give and share to the world. And what you give away, you always get to keep.
Mhm.
Right. So Pin Profits Mastery, was my give. And it's a free Pinterest training that leads you to my Pin Profits Mastery course, which is centered around Pinterest, but that's just really a cover up. That's just to pull you in, because it's so much more than that. It is a modern marketing guide. It
Mhm.
is about short form video and searchability and being able to be found on multiple platforms. I'm in a group, not was, I'm in a group, and someone was sharing about Amazon has an on-site program that not a lot of people know about. You can create video content. Basically, they're competing with TikTok.
Mm.
They've created this influencer affiliate slash type program where you can create short form videos of up to a minute, and the good ones they will put on their website. And so when people watch your video and they buy that product that you are reviewing, you get a commission. Well, first off, this person tried to say that that's not content. And I'm like, it absolutely is content. But I
Mhm.
didn't say it. I'm learning because I'm direct. I got direct parents. I'm learning to ask questions. I'm like, well, is that not content? I love to play
Mhm.
compuzzled. Okay. When I do this,
Puzzle.
I know the answer. Okay. I'm giving y'all the cheat code. When I
Mhm.
do this,
Right.
well, I'm confused. I know the fucking answer. I know the answer. I'm
I
just playing
never
dumb.
want to have you say that sentence to me.
No. Sometimes I might really be confused, but you could probably tell the difference if you really know me, right? Because everybody has their tell. So I'm like, first of all, that is content. And then, I realize she's created a course and selling it, and she really doesn't even know what she has in her hands. She doesn't really understand that Amazon is a search engine, right? People don't understand that YouTube is a video search engine. They don't understand that Pinterest is a visual search engine. And the way, if you understand product and market, you can always tell when I get excited about marketing.
Oh Lord. I'm just saying, genius.
Uh,
Told
You
you.
can always tell. I
yep.
just go. It's so
Yes.
funny to me when I catch it. So, and when you know and understand product, industry, business life cycles, and you know exactly where on the life cycle social media as a whole is, and then where a platform specifically is, you understand that the future of online marketing is largely predicated upon you being able to be discovered.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
It's largely predicated upon you being able to be discovered. And so that is why I spent so much time in Pin Profits Mastery on being able to be discovered, on search engine optimization and keywords and that. Because if you can learn it for one, you will just have to tweak it
Uh,
for the others, right? So that's why I tell people, if you really want to learn YouTube, you still should take Pin Profits Mastery,
Mhm.
because it's a lot of the same. And by the way, they have
Yeah.
shorts now. And the
Mhm.
beauty of shorts is that shorts are searchable.
Yeah.
Same with Pinterest and TikTok. Your short form video is
Mhm.
now searchable. And so when you combine that searchability with the fact that video is the fastest way to build know, like, and trust, and per the algorithms, it's the fastest way to get in front of people that have never seen you before. So this is how you can really supercharge your growth. It's really modern, modern marketing. And then it's also geared toward the professional woman like myself. It's geared toward the author. It's geared toward the creator, the speaker, to open up. I'm thinking in video games term here to go to a new level, but to but to open up new streams of income, right?
Mm-hmm.
To diversify their streams of income by becoming that monetized magnet. And then module
Mm-hmm.
6 is all about resharing, repurposing, redistributing, and my whole syndication
Mm-hmm.
strategy. Because like yesterday I was live on TikTok, and someone, people will go in and out, and so they must have went over to Facebook and they saw me live, and they're like, wait a minute, how is this happening?
Oh,
Like,
she
how
can just
is
leave it.
this? Yeah, but that's the observer in me. That's
Mhm.
the forever observer in me,
Um,
understanding that, when I would come home from school every day and watch the Brady Bunch, it was in syndication,
Mm-hmm.
right?
mm,
So that content that I created in 2018 that might have gotten 20 views,
yeah.
it's now gotten thousands of views because I keep re-streaming it
Ah,
live.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's real genius shit. I ain't even gonna lie. I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that
it,
one,
totally, 100%.
right? Because
Because
I've got
I
content
recreate.
from 2018 that sells products that were not created until 2022, 2023, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And someone asked
Genius.
about that. Yeah, and I said, well, when you watch a old episode of
Mhm.
The Cosby Show or The Brady Bunch or
Mhm.
Friends,
Yep.
don't they still have commercials on them?
Yep.
Wow. Okay, when you relate it back to the Brady Bunch,
Hmm.
that just whoop, made 100% sense. I'm like, oh yeah, don't create fresh content, Wendy. Use what you got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always tell people I only create content because I enjoy creating content. I
Yeah,
literally do not have to ever create another piece of content
you don't.
if I don't want to, right? Just from the live streaming I've done on TikTok daily for the past 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's infinite
Mm-hmm.
amounts of content that
It's
can come from that. I can't even keep up with me.
it's that consistency that you talked about earlier.
Hmm.
Consistently showing up and putting out or just, using content you have in a different way, but just doing it consistently.
I posted on TikTok yesterday. You're gonna fall off your chair when I tell you this.
Okay.
About the time that I made $30,000 posting 10-year-old content that was already in my phone.
Okay, so go look for that. Find Tamira Hamilton on the socials because I'm gonna go look for that after we're done. Uh, just to wrap up, my goodness, yeah, we could talk all day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to thank you, Tamira,
I
so
thank you for
much.
having me. I gotta say, one thing I did learn from my family
Yeah, of course.
was I hate when we tell women to be humble, but it's just
Right?
become an inherent part of who I am. And
Mhm.
anytime I do these and then I feel good at the end of it because it's like, wow, you are pretty fucking cool. You really do
Really
know
are.
your stuff, right? Because you
Yeah.
just get so caught up in it and you're just doing it and you're living it day
Mhm.
to day. But I never let it go to my head, right? But then when I go back, because I am a person, a lot of people won't listen to they won't watch their videos, they won't listen to their content, but I do, and it's how I get better. But then I listen to it and I'm like, damn. So I'm always grateful for these opportunities because sometimes you forget,
Mm-hmm.
just how great you are. You know what I mean? And so thank you for the reminder.
Well, thank you. And that's a great way to end this call is remember how great you are.
Yeah,
Everybody. We will have
everybody.
all of Tamira's links in the show notes and where to find her. Tamira, thank you again so much.
You're welcome
Yeah,
and thank you.
of course. Thank you.